So my name is Jay Sampson. I do a couple things here at the university. I do teach at the university, but perhaps more importantly, and certainly for context, this audience, I run strategic partnerships for the center. So that gets me involved in a lot of discussions around technologies that we can bring into the program. And then I'm also project managing the lab. So if you haven't spent some time in the lab, I would highly encourage you to. Today, I have the great pleasure to invite up a good friend and colleague, my friend Tamara Patrick, who is now the former global head of learning and development at Nike Incorporated. Before we get to Tam, let's roll a quick video.
What attracted me to Nike was the fact that it's so iconic. It's one of the most iconic brands ever created.
It just seemed like a culture that I could really embrace, and I'd feel comfortable and welcomed.
Coming from the military, it was really important to me that I found a culture that was tight-knit, supportive, but also fairly competitive, and Nike really fit the bill.
What attracted me to Nike was my love of sports, watching sports from a young age and playing sports. And that connection of being able to wear something that I've made was really attractive to me.
An average day at Nike is extremely collaborative. You're going to talk to a ton of people who are going to be helping you through your project.
We'll sit down at a whiteboard or at a table and just brainstorm.
And then I'm on the factory floor making airbags all day.
They're gonna throw you straight into the work because they want you to really understand why you're here and what you're doing here and really come into your own as well.
And people here are incredibly willing to spend their time with you and really go all out to make sure that we're taken care of.
The most surprising thing about living in Portland is just how nice people are.
The weather, the green, the trees, and the nature. I went whitewater rafting for the first time and that was insane.
Awesome coffee and beer.
Being able to bike anywhere. It's a million different bike lanes, whatever street that you're on.
It has greatly exceeded expectations, so I'm pumped about that. Words of wisdom that I have for potential applicants. Nike is a storytelling organization. The more you can link your past to where Nike needs to go in the future, the better you're going to be.
Ask questions. Don't make assumptions that you know everything about the job that you're applying for.
Nike is really about being yourself and being genuine. As long as you keep true to yourself and keep true to who you are, the opportunities are endless.
I'll describe this experience as extremely eye-opening.
A fast-paced learning environment.
Completely surpasses your expectations.
What a great video. Clearly filmed in the summertime, though, because there was no rain involved in that video at all.
Well, I don't know. It's always sunshine in Portland.
Well, welcome to sunny Tucson.
There you go. I've been here for a couple weeks now, so.
And how's it been going?
Good, good. I've been on campus watching tennis. I love to play tennis. I also like beating Jay at tennis, so that's a hobby of mine. But we have been enjoying women's and men's tennis. Do we have any tennis fans in the crowd here? Anybody on the team? All right. All right. Well, the women's team plays, I think, on Thursday at noon, and I'm going to be there cheering them on. Went to women's basketball. We've done hiking. Just really enjoying Tucson. So beautiful.
And U of A, of course, is a Nike campus.
That's right.
So the athletic department is all
just
Nike.
Do it, right? I love the video that you just saw because it really does express the individuals that were in this video were early career primarily. And this group, as head of global learning and development at Nike, we spent a lot of time with early career and rotational programs. We have some cool programs where we take retired WNBA players and bring them into corporate and give them a rotational program experience. We also had Serena Williams, Serena Design Cruise. She sponsored that, and we go out and get hero designers and give them an opportunity to be at Nike and show us what they have and make Nike better. So in that video, I think what we'll pick up on it is Nike isn't different than other organizations. You heard Terry, you heard Stacy. Be your best. It's a performance mindset, it's collaboration. We heard that too, being challenged, and so just being up for that is really important to propel your career.
So our discussion today is all around how to accelerate your success, which I think is pretty timely, here in late February, trending into March. Many of the students, whether they're sophomores or juniors looking at internships, or certainly seniors who are starting to go out and address the workforce or the potential of the workforce. So maybe let's start with a little bit with your background, throughout your corporate career, but then ultimately how you rose through the ranks to become the global head of learning and development at Nike. So maybe a little bit on your background.
Well, I think Terry said it well, bloom where you're planted. I never expected to be the head of global learning and development. First at Whirlpool Corporation. That's a boring company. They make appliances, but we all need them. And then going to Nike and doing that as well. But I majored in accounting and finance, and I wanted to be a CFO. And so I started my career at Whirlpool. And as I got in, I was in a rotational program, went from pure accounting to financial analysis, then went over into audit and did the whole thing. And I wanted to be a CFO. I had mentors, I had my career development, and Whirlpool was great at talent moves. And they said, well, we want you to go to supply chain. I'm like, why would I go to supply chain? I want to be a CFO. Like, because you're going to have a great experience there. And so that was the first lesson for me of being open to saying yes to that career move. One of my best career moves ever. I then was asked to join HR. I'm like, HR? Does that stand for Human Resources? How's that going to get me to be a CFO? I said, well, we're going to teach you about leadership development and other things. And at the time, Whirlpool built a global learning and development center on 100 acres of dunes land. And they said, you've got the project management and financial background to come in and help start this center, and we're going to teach you how to be a better leader. And at that point, I fell in love with global learning and development. And I thought, all my jobs, I loved being a manager of people. And after about 5 years there and getting promoted and doing different things, I went to the CFO and said, I need to come back to finance. I want to be a CFO. So like, all right, let's go back to finance. And after 3 months in finance, I'm like, oh, what did I do? My love is global learning and development. I love being in the classroom. I love designing things that impact our employees' performance as well as their personal lives. And so I stayed in finance for a couple of years. They were great colleagues, and I got a call back to come back to the center. And at that point, it's a super nerdy thing. I said, I'm going to be the best global learning and development professional ever. I was driving out to the center. And I still, and my son was a senior in high school, and I had him networking, went to Butler University. He was headed there. And he didn't know what he wanted to major in. So I had him talking to various leaders at Whirlpool. He said, Mom, if you could have any job at Whirlpool, what would it be? I said, my job. I have the best job. And he looked at me and he shook his head. Wouldn't you want to be the CEO? No, I have the best job. And so I go to what Stacy said. It opened up so many opportunities for me to meet academics, to be with employees, making an impact. And then I decided I wanted to go work for a big consumer brand. I hadn't done that, and I went to Nike. And it was the best thing I ever did in my career. The energy, the performance mindset, the sport, making sport a daily habit, it was just amazing. So my lesson in career is be open to going where you're asked to go. You're going to learn something, and you're going to take that, and it's not a linear path. Stacy said that. So
yeah, and I love the aspect of arriving at learning and development. I know in my corporate career, I spent 20 years or so at Microsoft Corporation and Adobe, in sales and business development roles. And initially when you're in sales, you think you know everything. But then as you start managing more and more and more and more people, you realize just how important learning and development and teaching really is. Because you as a leader, you know, you can only extend yourself so far without the great support of a strong culture that is all about learning. And I think that's key to some of Nike's success. So that's great. I know we did you did, I should say, some executive outreach to those within your network, and asked the question, you know, what are some of the challenges that students may be facing in this current environment, and just in general, how they're looking at the employment landscape. So maybe let's touch on some of that research that was done, both by yourself and through your network, and then we'll talk about some proprietary research that we reviewed.
Yeah, I was able to talk to close to 16 professionals that were either recruiters at these companies or managers. Half of them were managers of early career talent, and then also program owners. And Terry, I think you mentioned you were in a cohort in a rotational experience. This is very common in organizations to bring you into a rotational program. I met a student here in the front last night that's going into a rotational program. So those are really key. So here was the takeaway. These folks have been with early career for many years in their career. And so they're looking at you as a cohort, and they're having some struggles. Now, we're going to bring you to the bright side. Don't worry. Yeah, don't be discouraged by this. Because one thing that we would say at Nike is if they say you can't do it, then do it. Okay, so that's what we're going to leave with today. But the challenges aren't the technical skill.
Yeah.
It's really important, like Stacy and Terry said, get the degree. You have to be seen for your craft, right? But the technical skill is not getting in your cohort's way. It's how you show up in the work. And the general sentiment from managers was like, I can teach technical skill. Yeah. You're not going to come in with all the skill you need. You know, being a product person at Nike, there's nuances to it and things that you may not have learned in school, but we can teach that. What we can't teach is how to show up, how to be on time, how to be engaged, how to be curious and be a sponge. These are really important things. And so we're going to spend some time today giving you 8 tips on how you can do that. And it's a simple algorithm that you can use. Yeah,
you look at these slides and the data behind these slides, and it can seem a little daunting, yeah. Right? This is feedback on, you know, how employers are perceiving recent college grads, but yeah. you flip that upside down. Yeah, insufficient, you know, technical skills is really kind of low in the ranking. So that means you're going to be taught, as you are being taught here, those technical skills. The things you can do to enter the workforce is show initiative, exhibit a positive attitude, which, oh, by the way, you guys are all doing by showing up at 8-something this morning.
Which, by the way, let's get a round of applause for, come on, let's give everybody a round of applause for being here. Like, you're way ahead of your peers by being here.
Yeah, well, and then that's the final point. 54% show strong work ethic and show up. And so some of the things you can do on campus also, and I encourage this, is get certifications, right? You're going to get the big certification, which is the college degree. But there are a lot of programs on campus where you can earn a credential, for example, a credential that you can put on your resume that is instantly going to change the discussion with the employer. And so next fall, I know that for many of the seniors that is out of scope, but we'll be launching a program around Nielsen where you can earn micro-credentials. And earning a micro-credential from Nielsen is a conversation starter. We will be the first university in the country, frankly in the world, that will have this micro-credentialing around Nielsen. So be prepared for that. Let's go ahead on some of the slides.
And by the way, Jay, I think another thing is the lab. If you haven't been in the lab, I was so impressed last evening as I walked around the lab, and the ability to have experiential, hands-on, that lab is beautiful. Do not pass the opportunity to be part of that. My goodness, what a gift. So anyway, I just
I'm
wanted
going to shill further.
Yeah.
You should also think about using the lab to record a video resume. 30 seconds, who you are. Again, the employer, or the prospective employer in that scenario, the first thing they're going to do, if you get through the screening process, if they look at your resume, they like your resume, the first thing they're going to do before they talk to you is look at your LinkedIn profile. And if you can project yourself through that profile using a video, it's just going to ease that conversation in a little bit. So 30-second video, get it scheduled with the UCAT team down there, post it to your LinkedIn. It's a way to project yourself beyond a piece of paper, which is a resume. But let's go.
Actually, okay, we can talk forever on this. LinkedIn is really interesting. They have classes on how you can boost your LinkedIn profile. And it is the first thing that we look at in corporate is we check out your LinkedIn profile. And are you posting articles? Is there something that you love and that you're kind of a student of? Put it in there, and make yourself unique in standing out. So, all right, I'm going to switch gears now. We're going to talk about Liz Wiseman's work.
Please.
And Liz is a researcher, leadership development expert. We worked with her at Nike. She's worked at many major organizations. And her work is really about multiplying your impact in your role, in your life. And so one of the reads that I would recommend, whether you listen to it, you get a recap, and we're going to give you a bit of a insight to the work in a bit here. But it is a great read now and throughout your career, how you can be an impact player. And so you can be an impact player today in group projects, in the classroom, how you show up, how engaged you are. Are you in the lab? Are you getting your headshot this morning? Those are the kinds of things that you want to be active in. But the story I have to tell is that on Saturday, my partner and I went out to watch the women's tennis team, and we watched doubles. That was great. Then the singles players come on. We're watching court number 1 pretty intensely, because if you've been there, the bleachers are right by court 1. Court 2, I glance over, and our player, U of A player Midori, is losing, I think it was like 4-1 or 5-1, and to Colorado State. And we're like, ooh, that's not great. And so I started watching court 2, and everybody in this story is an impact player. First of all, Midori was positive. She stayed resilient. She was asking her coach for feedback on switchovers. She was drinking water. She was like, I got this. She was amazing. I don't know about you, Jay, but when I'm losing to you 4-1.
Doesn't happen often.
I am like down on myself. I'm negative thoughts. None of that was happening in the body language. The coach was coming over, giving a few tidbits, not talking too much, lifting up, probably finding something that's going to amplify, like go back to your serve, get that serve, plant your foot, whatever it is. And then her teammates, who may not have been playing that day or had finished their matches, they were cheering on. In fact, on court 1, Midori had just played with the player on court 1 in doubles and won. She is saying, Midori, go, And she's playing singles on court one, and she's yelling over, Midori, go. So Midori comes back and she wins 12 straight games. She won 7-5 and 6-0.
Crazy.
It's crazy. And everyone in that story is an impact player. And as compared to Colorado State, the player had the towel over the head, was not talking to the coach, just the demeanor was really negative. So I give this not to overuse a sports analogy, but we can all, like the individual that was interviewing that came up at the end was Stacy that said, hey, I've interviewed, I'm not getting roles. Don't stop, like keep it up, be Midori and go after it.
That's right. Make the break and hold serve.
Yeah.
Let's go into some of the fundamentals as you preached at Nike.
Morning, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but the first thing is just be disciplined, reliable, and professional. If you're coming to a meeting or you're going to a group project or coming to class, be on time, prepare, and actively engage. Be curious, be that sponge. We heard that. Have that learning mindset. Be thinking, what is that question that I want to explore? And bring in external research. Do what you can to really, really, get those fundamentals right. Know and own your work. This is a big thing. We have noticed over the past 4 years that an assignment will be given a body of work, and the individual takes it, early career takes it up, doesn't know what they're doing. That's okay. We don't. Like, oftentimes, most of my assignments that my boss gave me, I'd be like, what did you want, And it's by asking questions, just really clarifying, coming back and checking in. Don't wait until the end to deliver something that isn't on point. And then the last one is be a great teammate. Be that teammate that isn't taking credit, that's picking, if Jay's down, I'm gonna pick him up and boost him up, I'm gonna help him out, I'm gonna roll up my sleeves, but be a great teammate.
Yeah, that third point, know and own your work. That's certainly applicable from what your schoolwork is, right? Get in the front of the class, go talk to your instructor, talk to Lance. He's going to take the questions. He's going to help you understand what the assignment is. You're going to understand the assignment better. You're going to excel on the assignment the more questions you ask. And I think you're spot on. Again, entry level, the manager is going to have some expectation that they're going to need to coach you along. So don't think you have to know it all. Ask the questions. Know how to ask the right questions. And then, further riff here is, with kind of augment of chatbots and AI. I mean, the world's at your fingertips now. I mean, right now we're seeing an explosion of information available to you. Even Google Gemini has a interview prompt where you can practice interviewing using generative AI. That wasn't around. Now, there are a lot of things that are different about when we were interviewing in our first jobs, but these new tools are actually empowering for the process that you're about to go through, whether it's internship or full-time employment.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's go to
Take some questions? Or
well, let's go just to this slide here, because this is a bit of the money slide. Bloom where you're planted. Okay, so every great talent, and this comes from Liz Wiseman's work, it's aligned to that. These are the 4 things that you can do. Step up and lead, be a self-starter, ask for help in your step, leverage your network. That's really important. Finish strong, because a lot of the challenges in the workplace, they're hard problems to solve and you don't solve them alone. And so make sure you keep working through it and work with others and tackle those and move work across the finish line. This one's important, make work light, be easy to work with, reduce the drama, bring joy to the work, make it such that you create positive noise around yourself. People want to work with you, they want to be on your team, and then this is the money one, actively seek feedback. Ask, what feedback do you have for me? You can start practicing that today in your group projects, with your professors, with your parents, with others in your life. What feedback do you have for me? And when you ask it what, then you'll get some great feedback that then you can action on. So those are just 4 things. Again, go back to Impact Players from Liz Wiseman, a great body of work. It will really make a difference. So yeah, why don't we move to questions?
Do we have microphones available for
Do we have
questions?
any?
Let me just riff on while students come up to the microphone. That last one, let's take it to athletic endeavor, right? More time is spent at practice than ever spent on the field. And so that last piece about how can you recalibrate your performance, that's what our student athletes, whether it's those tennis players or some football players that were at the function last night, do. They spend infinitely more hours practicing, getting feedback, improving their performance off the field before they ever step back on the field. And that's something you can do as you're starting to look at employment. So I think we have our first questions. I see Mario. Mario, are you first?
Yeah. Hi, Jay. Hi, Tam.
Achiever.
I just wanted to ask, what's something that specifically stands out on a resume that would make you want to connect with that person even more?
Great question. As we look at resumes, I'm always looking for the thing that isn't on the resume that sings about you. Now, I'll give an example. We had an early career resume we were looking at, and the individual said, my passion is Legos. Okay, I'm like, I gotta meet this person, and it was integrated into the resume in a way that was professional. And sure enough, this young person comes in, loves Legos, super creative, hired the person. Of course, the first day, there's a Lego set on his desk. But make the resume reflect your personality, what you love, who you are. And of course, then follow all the professional rules that I'm sure the Success Center and the center will help you do.
Yeah, I would add to that, it's going to take time, but tailor your resume to every conversation, right? Every employer is a little bit different. They're going to be looking for keywords that are applicable to their company. And one of the great ways to kind of get caught up on any given company, it's available at your fingertips, is just quickly the day before kind of scroll through their news, their PR, right? What they're talking about. And you can pick up words and phrases from their press releases that will blow their minds, right? Because the employee probably hasn't read that because they're doing their job all day. But if you know what is happening within that company and you bring that into the conversation, and like, wait a minute, you know about my company. Okay, let's pause and let's go deeper on that. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Naomi, and I was just wondering, in your experience coaching different leaders and executives, what are some common qualities or patterns that you see in successful executives?
That's a great question. I think being a selfless leader, and Terry talked about it, not taking all the success and taking credit for things as one. I think the other thing is a really deep self-awareness. They know themselves, they know how they show up. And how do they know that? Because they've been asking for feedback, they're looking for signals, they're continuing to get better every day as a leader. I just read a New York Times article about a D3 football player who's in their senior year has not been invited to the NFL Combine, but probably will end up playing in the NFL. So if you have a chance, I think it was published a couple days ago. Anyway, on every morning, this young man wakes up and says, what can I do better today? And that's the theme that we see in great leaders, is how can I get better today and continue to make a positive impact on those around me.
I'll build on that too, Naomi. Like, I use the phrase, luck favors the prepared. And so what that means to me was, in a corporate role, I can't tell you how many hours I would spend in a hotel room between 7 and 9 p.m. prepping myself for the next day. Who am I talking to? What's their business challenges? How can I differentiate myself in those conversations? So luck does favor prepared, and the more you're prepared to go into every conversation, it gives you the opportunity to stand out, whether you're selling something or selling yourself in the interview process.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I was wondering how you would navigate a difficult decision as a leader, and how did you evaluate the potential risks and rewards before making the final call?
That's a great question. In today's workplace, when you have a decision that needs to be made, you're asking for input from others, right? And you're listening and you're looking for signals. And then you can't, be too collaborative as a leader. You need to make the best decision you can. And sometimes, sometimes you're wrong and it's a mistake and you learn from it. Sometimes you're right. You're not going to be right in all decisions. You can't be frozen. And I think Terry would say that as well. Like, sometimes you just have to make a call. You're going to make the best call you can in service of the work. But I think it's taking input, it's reflecting, and then knowing that you have to make the call and not waiting too long to make that call.
Yeah.
But Jay,
Assess the data that you have and ask for more data if you don't have enough to make a decision. But then once you do make a decision, I have found you got to be decisive and you got to go with it. And I did have a boss say, hey, if you're right 51% of the time, you're doing all right in business. Try to get it closer to 80% of the time. But you got to be a little decisive, because if you don't have the conviction and express that conviction, whether it's internal conviction or to your teammates, it's going to be hard to rally. To Terry's story earlier about the CFO, it's going to be hard to rally folks around you if you're not convicted and decisive in your decision making.
And I'll add to that being agile enough to once you've made that decision, you may need to pivot. And you may need to say, I'm wrong, or gee, we need to adjust. So it's reading and reacting and being proactive. Have that agility to move.
I think we're literally standing between them and their break.
All right.
It's that role.
I look forward to seeing you at break and talking to many of you. Jay and Sheila and team, thank you for having me here today. You are my favorite audience because of all the things that I did at Nike and really cool things. Early career was my very favorite. So thank you for having me.
And thank you, Tamara.